But there are ethical concerns and there are potential risks that AI does represent to people, to workplaces, to jobs, as we've talked about. Tony, yeah, I'm really interested in your thoughts in unpacking what is real there and what is kind of the perceived risk that this represents, and how should people be thinking about the risks associated with AI?
So let me just start by saying I think one of the appropriate areas of when you're dealing with something that you're unsure about is firstly unsure about your own capability to respond to it and what to believe. In the first instance, when you're experimenting with AI type systems, just understand that everyone around you started with zero knowledge and experimented from there. We all get led by our own degree of curiosity to actually start experimenting with systems. Okay, the next thing, what can you believe? Now, one of the key things, any technology imaginable can be used for good, it can be used for bad. And there are undoubtedly a lot of areas where AI can drive misleading information, things which are designed, content which is designed, to create an impression other than the appropriate response. In other words, it is designed to mislead people, to get them to believe something that either hasn't happened or wouldn't happen or didn't happen. Now, there are clearly lots of precedents in this. Social media exists, or social media has created an enormous, set of impacts which are negative to the society rather than positive. But there's also an enormous degree of focus on, what are the appropriate applications of these powerful content creation tools. So at Stanford University, where it's probably a collection of world-leading thinkers in this particular area, there's a Center for Human-Centered AI. And if they publish, if somebody's interested in it, the papers that Stanford HAI publishes and surveys that they conduct will give you a clear understanding as to where some of these negative consequences, how they're being identified, how they're being managed. I think we're also, starting to look at ways in which governments and various other forms of regulation can start to be applied, and every government in the world that is concerned by the welfare of their communities are actually looking at different forms of regulation where a particular piece of content needs to be identified as to whether it was created out of a system or whether or not it's actually legitimate. So this is really important in terms of news. We're about to enter into a all-watching worldwide US election, and that's going to be awash with all sorts of content coming from all sorts of places designed to sort of create a whole lot of different impressions. I think I want to go back to a point that Greg also raised earlier. We exist in a society these days which is really not a single uniform society. It is a very large and dispersed series of echo chambers. People listen to and they talk in and they discuss amongst themselves, and they deal with media that basically tells them that whatever it is that they're starting from, whatever the position is, whatever they believe is correct. And under those circumstances, there's a danger that within those particular echo chamber environments, content which is customized to an enormous degree or personalized to an enormous degree in order to make it engaging, in order to make it persuasive, can in fact create negative consequences. Now, that's beyond really the scope of what we're talking about, but in terms of where AI can go from an ethical point of view, I think the overall rules, the overall lines that we need to be pursuing as a society are quite clear. And now it comes down to a combination of the behaviours of governments in a regulation sense and also the responsibility of individuals in terms of how these technologies get applied to see whether or not they have negative consequences.
I was going to say, we invented the car and we got bank robberies in the U.S. and
Yes.
that led to the formation of one of the things that led to the formation of the FBI. I think we will need muscular regulation in very specific places, but doing it today when we are really unsure how these technologies will be abused. We have some early indications, and misinformation is an obvious one. You know, deep fakes and so on. But I do think that over-regulating early when we're not sure what we're regulating for is a mistake. So I think that there will be a tension, hopefully a healthy one, and that we'll find that the kind of right midpoint there. Europe seems to want to over-regulate. That means they won't have any significant AI companies in Europe ever. And that's that's their approach. U.S. much more freewheeling, and governments are struggling. You know, our politicians are over the age of 60. Our presidents will be 80 plus. It seems one of them the next election. So you know they probably don't even know what GPT is. So I'm not advocating for that approach either. But at the same time, let's be thoughtful here around what are we regulating when? And I think there are much bigger issues than deep fakes. I mean, I think it's an issue today, meaning how do we think about when very critical decisions are made by machines, when the human is actually not in the loop? Like I want us thinking about those kinds of issues, which are probably 3-5 years away, but they're coming quite quickly. When organ transplant decisions are made by machines, because they'll do a better job than humans, by the way, then how do we think about that? And do we regulate that or not? You know, I think that those to me are the more interesting and longer term, more impactful issues we have to grapple with.